With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
After a holiday break, the top drivers for the Precision Racing League returned to racing action. However, the challenges are set to be very fierce. Today, their IR04 series powered by VCO heads to Australia to race at Bathurst, the Mount Panorama circuit, here on RaceSpot and VCO. Good evening, everyone. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside with the booth once again is Joey Devon, along with our producer, Hugo Louise. It's been a few weeks since the last round to start off the season, so a chance for drivers in turn with the new year to set some new expectations after some of the craziness that happened last time on the streets of California.
Yeah, we kicked the season off in possibly the most difficult place possible at Long Beach, but we've had a couple of weeks since then. We've had a little bit of a break. You've had about 3 weeks over the holiday season, over the winter break to get some practice, because things are about to get not easier at all. From Long Beach, we travel to Bathurst in these IR04s. It is technically a street circuit because this track is partially public roads. It's basically half permanent circuit, half public roads up on the top of the hill. It is tight, it is twisty, it is immensely difficult, and this is how we're going to start getting into the rhythm of this season. After that little break, it is 9 weeks of non-stop action after this.
Absolutely, especially with the mixture of Grand Prix circuits, but also some very difficult circuits with lots of elevation changes to talk about. For those who kept an eye on that last round, though, at Long Beach, let's take a look at the driver standings, because Takeshi Kita, well, to say he was Mr. Sneaky, well, would be not the right way to describe his nickname this time. He was Mr. Fly Away from the Field by 20 seconds. Andrew Moran, Mark Stevenson, Sean Mulholland, along with Barry Cochran, did well as well. In fact, Barry Cochran tied with total points scored in the round as well with Jake Vasconcelos, who started off in the top 5, remember, and finished in the top 5. Drivers as well who did well: Kevin Santana, Drew Louise, Michael Dowden, and Andrea Sabia. And in turn, because of the performances for some of the drivers as a collective unit, with the team standings, Joey, YS Motorsports Black scored 54 points as a unit compared to Parabola's 48.
And things may look a bit strange down at the bottom of the table. And I'm not just talking about Goofy Goober Racing. I am a Goofy Goober indeed, and you are too. But Andy's Atomic, Takeshi Kita, and Lucio Vargas's team wasn't registered in round 1. So all those points that Takeshi Kita accumulated with winning that race Those are nowhere to be seen. Those haven't been scored. It's essentially a 9-race season now for Takeshi Kita and Andy's Atomic and Lucio Vargas to try and jump their way up the table. And they do have quite a bit of ground to make up because, as always, YS Motorsports Black and YS Motorsports Gold, the whole of Yellow Stripe Motorsports, they're very spread out. They've got a very deep talent field. They're going to be hard to catch from the back foot.
It's going to be absolutely difficult for them to close up already a 54-point deficit. Qualifying is currently in its final 4 minutes for tonight's iRacing action. I'd like to remind you that this coverage is brought to you by the Virtual Competition Organization. Tonight is also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using Precision 5 coupon code. RaceSpot offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. Casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using Precision 5 coupon code. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and veer integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Buttkicker products include incredible immersion and bring realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic with a goal to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, or sequential shifters, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. And tonight's coverage also in turn brought to you in part by Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Running more than 60,000 users across the globe, Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. And Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking performance. Let's track how qualifying is going. Mark Stevenson, who today is racing for the first time with a direct drive wheel, is showing why direct drive wheels in some cases can really boost your speed. How about the top time in qualifying so far? A 2:07.7, about a 10 quicker than Michael Dowden so far, Joey.
The Forge Racing driver really forging himself at the top of the timesheets here, but this is an interesting qualifying session because this is open qualifying. If you've been racing in this car at Bathurst in the official series on iRacing this week, that's closed qualifying, but here the entire field is out on track right now. However many people are in this session right now, 37 drivers are on track right now, and with these extremely long straights at Bathurst, if you want to put this car on pole or even anywhere near the top 5, you're going to need a little bit of help from the draft. Right now, Stevenson driving around on his own, basically. There is one straggler up ahead of him we might get a little bit of a tow from, but you're not going to do a 2:07.776 with no draft. All these drivers up top have had a little bit of help, and I think Takeshi Kita, frankly, hasn't had very much help. That's why he's still down in 7th.
Gonna say 2:08.2, he didn't have any time put in practice. Drivers like Kevin Santana back in the 9th position, for example. Well, drivers like Jake Vasconcelos, again, top 5 entering today. But we're talking about the difficulties with this track. You were amongst the drivers looking potentially to run in fixed competition. And to say the elevation changes are difficult, it sounded like an understatement today.
Yeah, that is the most difficult part of the track. Up at the top of the hill, the second you crest the apex of the hill and you start going down the tight and twisty section, it is massive elevation change. And especially when you're on cold tires, the car desperately wants to loop around on you. That's normally a problem with this IR04 car on completely flat racetracks. The way the suspensions load, it's very marshmallowy. The way the car just wants to spin around every time you get on the brakes too hard. That's especially exacerbated when you have that huge elevation change and concrete walls about an inch away.
Checker flag waving on the racetrack. Drivers in the midst of their qualifying laps have about 3 minutes to complete said laps. And just about half the field, in fact, more than half of it, still has a shot. Michael Dowden, Mark Stevenson, Andrew Moran, David Cristelli, Kevin Santana, Nick Horvath, Austin Harrison Munstall's on track. Here's Cristelli, for example. Does not really have too much draft. Drew DeWeese is too far up the road, if anything. But right now, Cristelli coming off a 2:08.1, his personal best that got him in the top 6.
I think Cristelli might have got a little bit of help. I think I saw Andrew Moran in the background pulling over, so he may have tugged Cristelli forward just a little bit, but here he comes through the final corner. Very difficult corner, a very heavy braking zone, basically 90 degrees though. Don't want to spit yourself into the grass on the exit. Cristelli doesn't look like he's going to be able to improve, or is he? Yes, he is. He did a 2:08.0, beats Vasconcelos to go in the third row as Kevin Santana offs himself.
Yeah, a few drivers did crash into wars through the chase. For reference, that was a common spot in practice. Austin Harris, top 10 on the board, 2:08.6. Corey Precker, currently in the 2:09 bracket on his own. You can see just how difficult the section is with the curbing, but also how many drivers have cut that grass in the lead up to the final section up by the Hall of Fame.
Happy to see Corey Precker back here. Missed race 1, but I don't think he's going to improve on this lap with that giant clonk of the curb. He actually does improve. He proves me wrong. He improved by about 1/10 of a second, but I think there would have been a little bit more improvement there if he didn't absolutely clonk that curb on the exit of the final corner. He killed his momentum, and Michael Dowden does exactly the opposite. He takes too much of the final corner, ends up in the grass, and that invalidates the lap.
Indeed it does. Lucio Vargas, as a result of the drafting help though, able to jump up to 8th at 2:08.3 to close out the session. Those are the final drivers in qualifying to take times in turn. So 35 entrants tonight. This could be a tricky one to say the very least as we go racing up on the mountain. This is Mount Panorama. This is Bathurst. Our drivers are just about all set to race for 6.2 kilometers and 3.86 miles per lap, 15 laps up on the board. Mark Stevenson with some new equipment today, already showcasing a good start to qualify. He'll start on the pole alongside Michael Dowden, while Christopher Richards starts in 3rd. Andrew Moran looking to sail away from 4th, with David Cristelli and Jake Vasconcelos the top 6. Takeshi Kita dominated last round by more than 20 seconds. This time he'll start in the heart of the pack in 7th. Lucio Vargas in 8th, while Lucas Hill and Kevin Santana are your top 10. Austin Harris and Kevin McPherson are a part of the dozen up front. Nick Horvath along with Sean Mulholland, top 14. Zachary Zert and Brendan Vitkill in the field again at 16. Marcellus Burning and Corey Precker wants the top half. Zach O'Carey starts in 19th with Brad Winter and Derek Putnam in the top 21. Justin Johnson turns the field in 2:09.7's 22nd. Neil Alexander, Thomas Coyle in 24th. Drew Louise finished qualifying 25th, looking to pick up 4 seconds in raw pace in the race. Barry Cochran, Rhea Saba, Gavin Ray, and amongst the final time set, John Buckley. Several drivers did not set times, however. James O'Brien, Owen McLaughlin, David Hebert, Gary Weaver, Tyra Gore, Tony Petit did not qualify. Keys to victory when it comes to Bathurst, it should be a Y1.
Well, the main key here is surviving. We had some trouble on lap 1 a couple of days ago in the GT3 series, and that is going to be potentially even more treacherous this week because, like I said, it is so tight and twisty. Once you get to the top of the hill at Skyline, those sections of the track are basically 1 car wide for as long as until you get to the Conrad straight after Forest Elbow. If one driver gets into the wall there on lap 1, there is going to be a pileup basically guaranteed at the back of the field. So everybody needs to make sure they give each other enough room, they stay out of each other's way, and you just need to survive lap 1 and stay out of those concrete walls.
Several drivers still taking their time to get up to the grid. What are the best passing opportunities in turn for today?
Well, the 2 long straights, you got to circle them. So coming into the chase, that's going to be probably your best passing opportunity, and you can make a move into Griffin's Bend if you are able to dive to the inside after the long mountain straight coming into turn 2. It's possible to pass elsewhere on the track if you're really brave and you really trust the driver next to you, but you can make some low percentage moves going up over the top of the hill. You definitely want to be in the final and first sectors of the track when you are making your moves.
So amongst the storylines to keep an eye on, Owen McLaughlin managed to get disqualified during qualifying. Gary Weaver and Tony Petit will not take the green. Brendan Vitkill appears to have missed the gridding procedure and will start from the pit lane today. We're all set to go to race from Bathurst. The green lights are out. We're underway from Australia. Mark Stevenson with a good launch. Michael Dowden thinking of ascend. It's blocked off. Near close call for third as well as they make their way up the mountainside, up the mountain straight for the first time. One driver off the track, Kevin McPherson. The rest of the field making their way up to Griffin's Bend.
A couple of drivers deciding to start from pit lane. I'm trying to see. It's just actually Brendan Victil. Everybody else has actually gotten onto the grid, but here comes Michael Dowden already, and he bumps Stevenson.
Michael Dowden wrecks the leader, and here goes the rest of the pack. Two more cars out of the wall. Running, as well as several contenders out to the front. Vasconcelos going around in the middle of Griffin's Bend. Several going backwards down the racetrack as the rest of the leaders go up the mountainside.
Well, that was much earlier than I expected that to happen, but that was a late dive from Michael Dowden. He was just barely to the inside of Mark Stevenson, and I understand he wanted to be aggressive on lap one, but that's a move where you basically need to be side by side completely with the driver ahead of you, or something like that can happen. And everybody else behind, Vasconcelos, Bruning, they were just trying to make their way onto the scene of the accident. And when you're on cold tires in these cars, you slam on the brakes like that to avoid something, the car's likely going to loop around if you're not expecting it.
6 drivers already having to tow as a result of the first big incident of the race. Austin Harris has had issues up on the hillside. This time around Skyline. Battle going on still for the race lead. Christopher Richards gets passed by Andrew Moran. Here comes David Cristelli to the left side. And Takeshi Kita now is living up to the Mr. Sneaky name. He snuck through all that to 4th.
It was an all-Chilean row 4, so the fans in the chat going to be going ole, 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 Chile, because Kita and Vargas from 7th and 8th to 4th and 5th already, and that's just by virtue of surviving. But here comes Moran. Can he get slowed down? Not really. He gets the lead, but he has gotten his first off track of the race.
Flip of the grass indeed. David Cristelli backs off. Does not set it up Murray's corner. And just like that, the first lap is complete already. With 7 drivers with issues, Drew DeWeese has crashed it again. Neil Alexander also involved. Drew DeWeese had crashed out of the chase in qualifying. He's taken several cars to the grass with him. Lucas Hill has also just entered the pit lane with damage. But now the leaders group together the top 5, 2.2 seconds out of those who have survived the first lap.
Teammates here now. Cristelli and Richards for Screwball Racing, and then you got Kita and Vargas for Andy's Atomic. But first of all, let's see what happened here at the chase. Just completely missing his braking zone. He tried to recover, but he gassed it up too hard, and on the rejoin, that's not going to be looked at too fondly by the stewards. He gassed it up too much on the rejoin, was not ready to rejoin the track, and took 2 innocent people out with him.
That was Zach Kokari as we take a look at some of the other spins around the racetrack. Already, we're down to 20 cars running. Everybody else has made their way to the pit lane or didn't take the green flag. Brandon Cristelli amongst those trying to build a buffer. Here's a look at what happened up through the elevation changes after Skyline. What did we just talk about, Joey?
That's exactly what I did when I was running my practice laps here before this race. Austin Harris, I know the pain, unfortunately. You just get a little bit of oversteer. You get a little bit of a moment, and then it's just, you're done. You can't recover. That's what happens in these IRO4s. You make that one little bobble, and you try and recover it, but the tires are already overheated, and it won't cooperate. But there's nothing more you can say about this lap 1 incident with Dowden and Mark Stevenson. He barely had a nose to the inside of Stevenson coming into turn 2 here. Just drove into the side of him, so I'm sure Stevenson's not going to be too happy. I'm sure Dowden probably knows that it was likely his fault. We'll ride on board with Dowden here. You can see, again, he's not really there. Bang.
So the first, second, and 6th place starters all piled into that corner. And in turn, the top 2 have now broken away by more than a second. Cristelli and Moran are starting to work together a bit. Richards is now adrift on his own.
He's got to make sure not to lose the draft here. He's lucky he does have a teammate in David Cristelli, though, who can not necessarily slow down the pace. He's not going to back up Andrew Moran to let his teammate come into the fray here, but it's better to have a teammate up there who knows your struggle than it is to just have Andrew Moran running away with the lead. Moran's going to peek to the outside here. He's not actually interested in using the draft of David Cristelli. which is interesting. That might tell me that Moran is saving a little bit of fuel already to minimize the pit stop that'll come in a little bit, or he just isn't frankly interested in running side by side with Cristelli. He saw what happened on lap 1 with Dowden and Mark Stevenson, and he just doesn't want to risk it. He's just going to ride behind.
Don't blame him with what's happened in Griffin's Bend in the past with some of the races we've seen on RaceSpot, right? If you don't hit the line right, it usually ends up you're not completing the pass or you spin it out.
It's basically a single groove corner. You don't often have those at road courses, but at Bathurst, the entire middle sector of this track, the entire mountain section of this track, it is a single groove racetrack. It's so difficult to go side by side. You really don't want to do it, especially here, coming down the hill. Like, yeah, you could freeze frame this and you could say, oh, it's 3 IRO4s wide, but the second you put 3 IRO4s together at racing speed there, it's not going to go so well.
Looking into the heart of the pack, meanwhile, you can see how things are forming up behind Nick Horvath, Kevin Santana, and Sean Mulholland, yet again, able to make it through some of the troubles early, quietly make his way into the top 10 here.
I'm surprised that Kevin Santana has been struggling so much in the opening rounds of this season. He was the driver who took the fight to Hamilton and Kaboeasy the most last season. I expected him to easily kind of slot into the top of the championship, but on street circuits, he's struggled a little bit. And there goes Andrew Moran back in the lead.
About to say, took the draft last time down the straightaway. Making a little bit of a peek again is Cristelli going for the cross. No run, though, to be able to get the pass quite yet. For the time being, of note, Barry Cochran and Marcellus Birding this lap have had issues. The more recent of the two, the 61 of Birding. Also of note, Gary Weaver has just entered the paddock. Unfortunately, it's lap 4. Also, unfortunately, James O'Brien, a few cars in the midst of the final sector have crashed, hence why the pylon is flickering. Here comes Cristelli to the left side. Here's a look on the big screen on how O'Brien just took a couple cars with him in the midst of a crazy spin.
I was about to compliment James O'Brien. He was doing his usual thing of starting from the back. He survived lap 1. He was up into the top 12. And unfortunately, he decided to prove me wrong. But I didn't mention him, so it's not a commentator's curse. It's just a James O'Brien curse on his lonesome. And while we were focused on that, we kind of missed that David Cristelli had a little bit of a poopy turn 2. He's fallen a full second behind Andrew Moran now. He's actually in the clutches of his teammate Christopher Richards, which might be a good thing. He might have somebody to work with to try and leapfrog to bring that gap down. But Andrew Moran is the most comfortable he's been in a while right now.
What did you call that?
It's a little bit poopy.
Okay. Okay, as we go up to the battle for 7th, you can see some of the shuffling right now still. And they're still losing ground. Horvath is 6th, but keep in mind, is dealing with technical issues, which is impacting the draft a little bit for some of these cars. Zert was able to drive his way last time by to this group.
It is difficult to make the pass on a driver who doesn't exist on the astral plane in front of you. So hopefully Nick Horvath doesn't keep blinking for Kevin Santana's sake. He does seem to be back in the world for now, but we did see a couple of laps ago. He was off the grid for a solid 10 seconds, and that is not going to help any of these drivers. But here comes Kevin Santana to the inside here. He's going to be clear of Horvath coming into the chase. Is Horvath going to be late enough on the brakes to dive it? No, he's not. He's going to fall back in line and let Kevin Santana try and get to business in front of him, but Santana gets a little bit of oversteer on the exit. He's not going to be doing any business forward because Horvath is suddenly right to the back of him with that one mistake.
Olin also taking a little peek. Doesn't take it, though. And not the cleanest of spaces to make a move. You see up in front of them as well. Richards and Kita have also swapped spots in the top 3 for now. Inside Kita, now on the right side, on the outside groove is Christopher Richards heading up to the Griffin's Bend. Back clear. There's what we were talking about with Horvath and Smoke Show.
The incredible disappearing driver, but Richards and Kita, I think the only reason Takeshi's doing this right now, the only reason he's making a fight here on Christopher Richards is that he thinks he's faster. He's going to go around the outside at turn 2. It's not going to work for him. He's still going to be there, but I think Richards will be clear of him coming up the hill. No, Takeshi does have the momentum. He's still going to be side by side, and he is going to be able to make the move on Christopher Richards. A great move, an aggressive move by Takeshi Kita. He lost about 5 seconds to David Cristelli in the process of making that move, but I think he needed to do that. He wants to run away with from Christopher Richards. He knows he has the pace to do so.
Richards now trying to utilize the draft in it. You mentioned the 5 seconds. Santana, Horvath, Mulholland, and Zert are all in their draft as a result, so this has become a 6, make it 7-car train coming up to the third of the way in mark. It's interesting to note a crash. And Kina blocks the track. Into the wall goes Vargas. Joining him is Horvath. Mulholland has to come to a stop. And more drivers in the top 10 demolished as a result of a track blocker.
I was about to say what Takeshi needed to do there was have the downhill of his life to pull away from the draft of Christopher Richards, and I think he pushed a little bit too hard there, lost the vehicle, same way that Austin Harris did. And like I said, if that happens, there's basically no avoiding it. You just got to slam on the brakes and hope that you can stay out of it. Unfortunately, his teammate Lucio Vargas wasn't able to make it through, and quite a few others. Bam! That's David Cristelli. That was David Cristelli from second, taken out by a lap car.
Oh my goodness, Cristelli gets involved with lap traffic. Prior to that lap, there was a driver who came out of the pit lane. It was Gary Weaver. That was who got into him trying to let the leader go, but hit the wall on the inside. So now Moran's on his own by 8.5 seconds after just about the entire top 10 imploded.
Horvath is going to crab into the pits here. Derek Putnam up into P5. We just saw his teammates from Spratty Motorsport in the chat complimenting him on a drive to the top 10. Well, in one fell swoop, Derek Putnam finds himself in the top 5, and David Hebert takes over the last spot in the top 10. But Gary Weaver, he just came into the session late, I think, to try and at least get a couple of points on the board for finishing 75% of the race. Not going to be a popular character after that one, though. This is Zachary Yurt. Oh, my goodness. Very good avoidance. Heads-up driving, actually using the brakes, and he made it through. Good credit for Zachary Yurt there.
And even if Gary Weaver was able to complete all the laps, I believe it would have been 66%. But 11 cars have survived 5 1/4 laps. 11. And some of them have damage, mind you. Amongst them, from 32nd to 10th is David Hebert. Remember, he did not qualify. Tyler Gordon didn't either. He's in 11th.
Lone Tranny Racing trying to compete with for the team's championship. This is a good recovery for them. Both of these drivers thinking there's probably going to be some drama at Bathurst. There's probably going to be some calamity. And unlike James O'Brien, they've stayed out of the calamity themselves. David Hebert's never really a driver who falls into calamity. He's a very calm and collected and conservative driver. And sometimes at places like this, that kind of driving really gets rewarded.
What a race it's been.
Brendan Victil as well. He started from the pits. There he is.
Oh my goodness. It's one of those races, again, right? Where you expect attrition to come into play, but you don't expect to be 2/3 of the field. Corey Precker is now up to 7th this lap after the issues with Cristelli, who's now DNF'd. He is dealing with wing damage. There goes the pass. Victil was up to 7th. He's gained 2 spots this lap.
Victil really getting rewarded for that choice here. Another one of those drivers who came down from the F3 series this season. Him and Takeshi Kita, they said, you know what? We're going to take on the IRO4s this season, try something new. It's, again, working very well for him. He's a very, very strong driver. He's got a lot of road course experience in open wheel and GT3 cars alike. Just using that knowledge to his advantage, staying in the pits, knowing that something terrible was probably going to happen in the opening laps. Now he's clear of Corey Precker, and Gavin Ray's right ahead. Pit lane to 6th as possible.
In one of those races, absolutely, they are reaching some traffic. Several drivers who were involved in, well, Calamity Central are trying to settle in, such the Ink Machine up the road. That is Gavin Ray. That is for position in 6th, up 22. Amongst those that I'm referring to, Dowden, Hill, Harris, Buckley, all have returned to racing. Everybody else is out.
And somebody who didn't even make it to the grid tonight, those of you who were with us at Long Beach last year, a couple of weeks ago for the opening round of the season, Terry Radford taking on these IRO4 cars this season, getting his feet wet in the road course world. He's in a trial by fire. Couldn't make it this week because, as the Australians would say, he's been at work all arvo. He's making up for stuff at night. Couldn't make it here. He will be here for the rest of the season, but no Terry Radford here to join the fray of drivers who would likely be out on lap 1.
I'll also say
I'm
this.
I'm allowed to say that because I was with Terry last night, so we're.
Oh, and there goes Ray.
Oh dear.
The carts that go yay car will be not saying yay there. Gavin Ray, he's now added some damage to that machine with contact. Seems it's dragging now too as a result of the slam. Vittil is up to 6th spot with that incident.
He gets to join Corey Precker now in the damaged car party at least, but if he can stick with Brandon Vittil, the draft is so powerful down these long straights and these very underpowered cars that just a little bit of wing damage shouldn't hurt him too bad, but he does need to stick with Vittil, who is just absolutely rapid right now. He's one of the fastest drivers on the track, and I'm interested to see now what he can do in clean air. He's got nobody ahead of him. He's got 9 seconds up to Derek Putnam. I honestly think he might be able to turn lap times similar to our race leaders with Moran, Richard, Santana, and Yurt all in the 208s. I think that's what we're about to see from Vittil on this first clean lap of his race.
Halfway through this race so far, on lap 8, about 8 or so laps to go in this event. 7 laps, should say. Precker still continuing to drop back because the damage. Hebert is closing up. Thought of this as well. Oh wow, the leader Moran has an 8-second advantage. I do want to mention one thing. There is a name who also is very quietly up through the field. Derek Putnam, who did not start for Sperati Motorsport, is up to 5th. About now what is 10 seconds from these cars.
Done a great job. I keep repeating myself, but that's because that was the main skill that you needed coming into this race. Being able to survive, being able to just watch what's going on ahead of you, make sure you're completely on your P's and Q's and you're on the brakes, you're avoiding everything. Derek Putnam's done exactly that. I think his experience in the MX5 Cup Series and the PRL is probably helping, as there's a lapped car dead in the cutting there. Don't know who that was, but he was in the MX5 Series for the past couple seasons, surviving all that chaos and drama and pack racing, and it's worked pretty well for him.
Still keep an eye on the battles between Ray, Precker, Hebert, and Gore. Currently, Hebert and Gore now back 4 seconds as a result of how things have fared over the past lap or so. But now it's going to get interesting with the fuel mileage because, well, we talked about some of the potential saving, Joey. Well, this is a big track where you don't want to run out of it. Run out of gas, should say.
Yeah, you definitely want to put a little bit of extra fuel in the tank if you can, just to make sure you don't have to go a full extra lap around Bathurst and not have enough. But the battles are so separated right now. The drivers are all so separated that I don't think we're really going to be seeing any sort of alternate fuel strategy here. I have to imagine once these fuel tanks run out, you'll see everybody come in on basically the same lap, take that little splash of fuel, and they should be good to the end. It's a guaranteed 15-lap race. There's no possibility, like we've seen in some other races this week, of potentially going an extra lap because of the time limit. It should be fine. It should be dead set on 15 laps.
I was about to say there's still about maybe 15-minute cushion. Still watching to see if Precker can build a run. Thought about a peak? No. Precker's wing damage is definitely hurting him, though, with these corners.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front end of Gavin Ray's car. It doesn't look heavily damaged. You can definitely tell on Precker's car. You can definitely, absolutely tell that little curly front wing on the right side of his car, that is hurting him. Gavin Ray might have damage, but it's slightly less severe. So they've kind of evened each other out in the most frustrating place possible. You want straight line speed. You want to be able to make the move on the straights. But Corey Precker can't do that, so he's just got to suffer right now and hope that Gavin Ray makes a mistake in some other part of the track, because he's a little bit screwed on the straights right now.
My pit window is open. Tyler Gore, the only driver to pit for fuel so far. But now they've reeled back into Vittil. Last time by for Brennan, it was a 2:11. The fall off for some of these drivers has been a bit significant. It is the hottest track temp of the season, 92 degrees Fahrenheit, keep in mind. So that's starting to come into play a bit.
Hot track temp isn't hurting Kevin Santana, though. He actually just ran his fastest lap of the race on the last lap at 2:08.2. So as the fuel loads drop down, as the tires heat up just a little bit, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Kevin Santana in the number 66 car with, I don't remember what was on the side of his car. It wasn't El Diablo. He told me it was a bull or something, but either way, he's working well in the hot temperatures.
It is the Robot Devil once again from Futurama.
Okay, so I was right, but I was wrong before because I thought it was a bull. But now I'm right because it is the devil, and I was wrong, but now I'm right, and now I'm wrong, then I'm right, wrong, something like that.
Bittil and Precker now into the pit lane together this time. Chance for Precker to be able to change that wing now as a result, but it would cost him a lot of time on the track.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be worth it to change the front wing, but he might actually be required to do so with the damage. So we'll see if he is stuck in there for a couple extra seconds. Yes, he is. He is getting that front wing changed, which is probably going to be disappointing for him, because if he could have stuck with Brandon Victil there, he would have had a great shot at jumping Gavin Ray, because he would have been able to use the draft of Victil to minimize the effect of that front wing damage and potentially go for an undercut on Gavin Ray, because you're not going to get an undercut on tires here. Nobody's switching tires. The race isn't long enough, and the tires don't wear enough. But Precker could have been able to use Victil's draft there. He won't get any of it, though, because he chose to spend 6 seconds putting on the front wing instead.
Andrew Moran, meanwhile, leading by about 7+ seconds. He has been losing the interval, but right now has a big enough cushion, possibly, to still win this race. By the rate, some of the leader drivers behind him are closing by about 3-4 seconds. So Moran, absolutely in the driver's seat, you have to think, with 5 to go this time.
Yeah, he could be a full second, maybe even more than that. Maybe about 1.2 seconds a lap slower than Christopher Richards every single lap, and he would still win this race. So Moran's only job right now is basically to cruise home, to make sure he doesn't crash. That's the only thing that he needs to do right now. He has this race won. He can back the pace down, but he can't lose focus. He can't get complacent in the lead of this race and lose that focus and hit the wall, because that's an easy way to lose things. He's still got to be driving at 100% focus. He just doesn't need to push quite so hard.
Santana, as well as the 84 of Zert coming in this time. About a 6-second difference between them as they make their way to the boxes. Santana only a 4-second stop, the quickest fuel stop out of everybody except for Michael Dowden.
I hope he's put enough fuel in the car, but that might just be a virtue of coming in late. He put a little bit less fuel in the tank than Brandon Victil did, who came in a lap or two earlier. I don't think Kevin Santana would have made a fuel miscalculation. I think that is par for the course. What we saw here last season when we ran here, just a little splash and dash in the pits. I think he will be fine. But now the question is, how long is Christopher Richards going to be in the box? Has he been able to save a little bit of fuel, or is Kevin Santana's short stop going to be the thing that gets him up into second place?
Huge question mark right now. Richards, as mentioned, on his own, did pick up compared to the leader about 0.3 this lap so far. So the question mark of if Moran comes in this time, we are at the very tail end of the 50% limited fuel tank. He has confirmed with the radio he's pitting, telling that to the lap car and Brad Winter, who is still trying to find a way to let him go despite that signal. Won't get him though.
There's no real reason for Brad Winter to let him by, so I don't know why he's saying to let him go, because he's not gonna catch it by the time he comes into the pits.
Oh,
well,
there's the reason.
That's how you open up the door.
I don't think Brad Winter intended it to be that way. Rand did say, "I'm pinning, don't worry." Well, a little worry there for the stop.
You never want to see smoke in front of you. We've had enough drivers fighting for the win taken out by lap cars tonight. You don't want to have deja vu there and have it happen twice, but Moran's in. Richards is right in there behind. Now all you can do is wait. Remember, Kevin Santana, 4 seconds in the box. He was only about a second behind Christopher Richards when he came in. If Richards is in the box for 5 seconds or so, that might be the switch that flips.
About 4/10 alone picked up, though, by Richards on the confidence on the entry. However, the lead's so big, Moran is already gone. Richards now makes his way to his stall for the fuel. And Richards took an extra second plus compared to the 99. So there goes all the time gained in the pit stop. Richards, here we cross the blend line to the backdrop, now has lost half a second with the longer delta. Here comes Ray.
And Kevin Santana is 5 seconds behind Christopher Richards after that pit cycle. I have no idea what happened to him. There must have been a mistake somewhere, or he got held up by a lapped car or something, because that gap was about a second when Kevin Santana came in. He was a second faster in the lane than Christopher Richards was, and yet he's 5 seconds behind Christopher in third place now. So Kevin Santana had a little bit of trouble on the outlap.
That is a big amount of time to lose per se on one lap. To one driver, he barely has completed the pit window. All drivers had completed service. Rand now leads by nearly 8 seconds again. Richards losing ground to the 99 after the pit stop with the fuel. So again, it's down to Moran to keep the car in one piece. All he has to do is don't spin it, and he wins the race.
He scared me a lot there. There were 4 tires off the ground there, not touching pavement for a second as he came down the hill. So he's definitely still pushing. He's not really backing down the pace, even though he can. He can afford to be 2 seconds a lap slower than Christopher Richards now until the end of the race. But he's still pushing. He's got his rhythm. He's scared me a little bit coming down the hill, but if that's what makes him comfortable, there's no use changing it now and making himself more uncomfortable. That would be the risk of him not finishing the race. He's still in the rhythm, but can't hit the wall. Can't gift it to Christopher Richards.
That'll be extremely important. And for those wondering why it shows battle for 35th, it's not the battle for 35th. That is Tony Petit, who did not start today's race. Brendan Vitkill, however, is still in the battle for 6th after the pit stops. Gavin Ray did keep up, so it seems Ray, despite the hit to the rear tire before, still able to keep things going, able to keep up the tempo. They have ditched Precker with the wing change by 4 seconds, and they are now 9 seconds on 71. Vitkill nearly turned himself in the grass.
That's definitely a case of lost focus there. Just tried to swerve over a little bit to break the draft of Gavin Ray. I don't know if he was looking at his relative or what, but just went a little bit too far over there. Luckily, it was on a straight. Didn't lose anything from that, but he's definitely feeling the pressure from Gavin Ray, and Gavin's going to know that because of that one little mistake. I really thought that Brendan Victo was going to be fast enough to run away here and just pull away and run all in his lonesome P6, maybe even catch Derek Putnam, but his life is much, much more difficult now. Gavin Ray has found speed here. It's not just a fluke that he's up here. Into turn 1. He's later on the brakes than Victo, actually. He's good on the brakes. Just got to maximize these longest straights.
Last time out in Long Beach, John Buckley for Karts That Go Yay. Best finishing position for the team. They DNF'd both their cars. Gavin Ray with a chance to flip the script now with a run up to the inside, heading up to the right-hander. Ray with the charge. Vittil loses the spot, and as a result, move Ray back to 6th.
In normal situations, you're usually not able to hang it around the outside like Takeshi Kita was a little bit earlier there. But as Gavin Ray takes the lead of this little pack, he's actually lost the car in front of him to give him perspective, and I think that's why he went a little bit too deep into turn 2 there. He almost got in the wall. He's got to readjust to being in clean air and not having a car in front of him to base his braking points and zones and whatever else on. It's basically qualifying mode for him now, as he doesn't have to look in the mirror to think about Brendan Victil until the next straight.
Clattering to the curbing as well up through Skyline. Ray nearly drifted through. Vittil able to plant it a little bit better through the corner. Looking on board, coming up towards 2 laps to go. Closest battle on the racetrack at the moment.
Half a second coming out of Forest Elbow there. That's kind of the sweet spot you want to be in here. It's going to give you enough time to catch the car in front of you, and it's also going to give you enough momentum once you're done catching them to at least peek to the inside, if not be clear of them. He's going to catch, he's going to catch, he's going to catch, and he's not actually able to completely bring the gap down. He's going to lift a little bit early here as well, coming into the chase. I would have expected him to close up the back of Ray there, but I think he's thinking, that's probably not my best place to make the move. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I'm going to try and catch up in the final sector here and see if he can repay the favor on Gavin Ray coming into turn 2.
2 laps to go. What has been a wild one here from Australia. Vittil still lining it up with the draft. A little bit of a mistake from Ray, but now some draft. Saba comes out of the pit lane. Lap traffic now gives a chance to go for the snake. A big pull for Ray. Builds the advantage as a result of the lap traffic.
Victil's not going to have a shot here. He's had his one shot in this lap. Now he's just got to stick with Ray through the most difficult part of the track. Hope that Gavin makes another mistake like he did in the previous lap in turn 2, and just wait for your next shot on the next straight. That's how the racing at Bathurst tends to go. It's just a case of trying to stick with your opponent until you get to the straights. That's when you're going to be able to make the moves. But it's the most difficult part of the track where you have to do that sticking.
That one nearly did not stick in the corner, though, in the midst of the right-hander to the left coming through Frog Hollow. Went through Solomon Park and McPhillamy Park, now off towards Skyline and the Dipper. Ray now nearly a full half a second plus over the 63 as they come to the white flag, this time by up through the down portion of the mountain.
That's how big the gap is to Andrew Moran. He's about to take the white flag to the final lap, and these guys are still coming down through the middle sector of the track here. Gavin Ray's done a great job on the mountain. Great exit, but a little bit of a bobble on the exit. Gets a little bit of oversteer. Luckily for him, Brendan Victil made another mistake, and he got into the wall on the exit of the corner as well. So their two mistakes kind of equaled out there, and I think Victil is going to be a little bit too far back to think about a move. He might be able to if he wants to go for a late lunge into the chase. He is bringing the gap down. He didn't show much intent on the last lap of going for a move, and he's going to hang back again this time.
One more lap to be able to have a chance. The smoke is kicked up around the track from one of the lap carts the previous lap. Here comes a chance, though. Victil with a good final sector. Yet again, no chance to be able to make the move. If they battle too long, though, Corey Precker has closed 2 seconds coming up to the flag stand.
Or he could be a very, very happy driver if these two come together, but Gavin Ray had a great final quarter. Look at the gap he's already pulled over Brendan Victil. That's a full second coming onto the mountain straight. He's going to be home free for the moment. Again, I repeat myself, he's got one more sequence of corners to nail, and Brendan Victil hasn't really shown any ability to make the move when he's about half a second back coming out of the last corner, coming onto the back straight. As long as Gavin can keep that gap up, he'll be home free. He'll have a nice, calm Bathurst track till they come to the line.
No traffic to deal with ahead, still 7 seconds behind Derek Putnam's 71 car. Not the best of corner exits, though, for Ray. That may give Victil a chance if he can keep into 1 second behind for the downhill portion. Not doing it, though.
Like Billy Joel said, he has to deal with pressure, and he is feeling it, but Victil just doesn't have any speed. Ray was locking up. He made a mistake. He turned in a little bit too early there, coming into McPhillamy Park. He's certainly feeling the pressure right now, but there's still a full second gap back to Victil.
All this as well, Andrew Moran survives Bathurst to win in round 2. Gavin Ray, just as we look away, crashes away. A top 6 finish. Ray is stuck against the wall with a broken tire. What can you say? You look away, and then trouble goes awry.
Carts that go nay. Here it is. Everything was going great. He got out of the rhythm, though. And that is what happens when you get out of the rhythm at Bathurst. A single groove track coming downhill there. It's so easy to get complacent when you do have a gap like that. When you're feeling the pressure, you just tell yourself, just nail this lap. Don't make any mistakes. But you get too deep in your head, you miss one corner, and you're paying the price.
Did say to nail the corner. Well, he nailed a wall in the corner. Victil holds on to 6. Corey Precker, if he had another lap, may have had a shot. He did get within a second. And some of the drivers who didn't qualify, David Hebert and Tom Gore amongst the final finishers on the lead lap. Thomas Coyle was another 10 seconds back of this car. Gore, for the first time in a while, able to survive for a solid finish. It's been a rough past month plus, including on top of the 6 months after.
I remember when we were here at Bathurst last season, I wanted Tyler Gore to go for a celebratory jump because he was just outside of the top 10. Now he's got a top 10. He's finished in the 9. And Tyler Gore, you got to go for a jumpo.
Have you just turned into David Haynes again?
No, if I was David Haynes, I would sound a little bit more like this.
Oh my goodness. We'll let you deal with the repercussions of that. As all drivers have finished, And the 23 goes full speed ahead up to the jump. Let's check out the unofficial race results. Andrew Moran able to pick up the victory after just about everybody crashed today. Christopher Richards finished in second. Santana, Zert Putnam the top 5. Till takes 6th after his competitor crashed around him. Corey Precker, after the wing change, still finishes 7th. David Bear and Tomer Gore went from 32nd, 33rd respectively to the top 9. Thomas Coyle were able to recover the speed we talked about. 2 10s in quality to 10th. Michael Dowden did finish on the lead lap. He was able to finish in 11th. Everybody else laps down. More than half the field at risk of not scoring points. Ray, Hill, Harris, Buckley, and maybe Winter. Everybody else barely able to make it 50% or less. DeWeese, Horvath, Cristelli, Keita, Vargas, Mulholland, McPherson, Saba, O'Brien, Bruning, Cochran, Bilkari, Alexander, Stevenson, Johnson, Vasconcelos, all crash. Gary Weaver, within a lap, crashes. And 2 drivers did not start, 1 with the DQ, 1 did not take the grid. As several drivers are making the jump, Andrew Moran gets the chance to jump for joy from victory lane today, top step of the podium. And will turn things a little bit higher up from P2 in points entering today. After the first round to a victory today, Andrew, how was it today, surviving the firestorm that was the Bathurst circuit?
Yeah, I'm glad I survived, and I did my thing, and I kind of wish it would have been a tighter race. I know the guy behind me got taken out, but it's been a pretty rough week, and the win feels really good.
According to the records, it's your first PRL win as well.
It is.
How does it feel to break through on that mark finally after the years of being close?
It was coming. I knew it was coming. Just I had to stay in it, and yeah, it was really tough. Losing, Ken Block was really inspirational to me, and I'm sure you guys have already talked about it at some point, but man, yeah.
Go ahead.
He inspired me to start racing, and I was really in the rally, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today racing. So thank you, Ken.
Well, Andrew, congratulations again on the victory, and thank you for saying those words. That's Andrew Moran.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it indeed. That's Andrew Moran coming away with the victory today. That one coming over Richards. Kevin Santana finished on the podium today from 10th to 3rd. The Robot Devil is with Joey.
Indeed he is. Well, there's a mystery on track today, Kevin. After that pit cycle, you lost about 5 seconds to Christopher Richards. We thought you were going to have a pretty solid chance of getting back at him. What happened on that outlap? Cannot hear you, Kevin.
Kevin Santana, do you have a copy?
He's usually short on words, but unfortunately there's some technical difficulties with Kevin Santana here. Producer Hugo suggests that he may be speechless after what happened to him on the last lap. We'll try and drag him in here one more time. Kevin Santana, do you have a copy? Technical difficulties with Kevin Santana here. Unfortunate. I was looking forward to hearing from him. Hopefully he can resolve those technical issues, and maybe I'll save that question for next week.
Indeed, and we'll see how many words he does answer if I remember the amount of time from the previous times. But yes, the drivers did take the jump. A lot of drivers will be jumping around the point standings after tonight, to say the very least. So a lot to consider for the 3rd round of the season, Joey, as a result of an attrition-filled one today here in Bathurst.
We go from a track with absolutely no runoff at Bathurst to Coda, which does have a vast expanse of runoff. The problem is you can't use any of it. You see all that beautiful paved asphalt there, all that beautiful red runoff. You can't use any of it. You put 4 tires over the white line, you're getting an incident point. You're going to rack those things up if you're not careful. That's the main obstacle at COTA. There's no walls, but there's track limits that could get you a drive-through if you get 13 of them.
And guess who is at COTA right now? It's Formula 3 action, powered by VCO. It's time for their second round of the season. And glad to have you with us as we transfer over to Austin, Texas, at a facility, an FIA Grade 1 circuit, and one that brings plenty of fast sections, plenty of spectator festivities, to say the very least, in the heart of the state of Texas. Everything is bigger at Texas. Everything could be big for these drivers today for their second round after what was an intriguing opening round, Joey, last time.
Very intriguing, I think, is the word I would use. If those of you who weren't with us here on December 22nd again, you missed a very interesting finish between Sebastian Coffret and Michael Coffret. We'll get into that a little bit later. But after COTA here, speaking of interesting, we go to the newest track on iRacing at Manicourt in France. Very, very tight quarters there, but that should be an interesting race as the drivers take on a new track. Brands Hatch, high commitment. Spa, high commitment. Long Beach, I'm very jealous that I won't be in the field for that race. Rudskogen, again, very tight quarters, very new track. The Motegi road course, always highly technical. And then a couple of classics at the Red Bull Ring and Watkins Glen Classic. But as always with this F3 series, it's a very diverse calendar. It's a very exciting calendar. And I could not be more excited for the rest of the season.
Remind you how things went to start off the season. Here's a look first at the pro standings. Michael and Sebastian Coffret, the major talking point, because as they came to the checker, the Coffrets were battling, and then a checkup at the line set up a photo finish.
It was a very strange situation because Sebastian Coffret was kind of waved by Michael Coffret. Michael said, you know what, we're not going to fight. Sebastian, you're faster. You can take the lead. So Sebastian takes the lead over Michael. Sebastian gets a little bit checked up, I think, by a lapped car and brings Michael back into the fray. And then Sebastian slams on the brakes coming to the line and lets Michael win the race. I think that's how I remember it, if I have my order correctly. Yep. Either way, just a very, very confusing situation. They still find each other at the top of the table, though, but Hamilton Akabueezy on pole, had a couple of mistakes, wasn't able to stick with him. He's the driver to watch coming into tonight.
I was about to say that's why he's tied for points with Sebastian Coffret. He had the fastest lap of the pole last time. Drivers like Hardman, Preston, Manuel Vargas also doing well. Tower Pierre Richards quietly rounded up the top 10 of the point standings. Compare that to the AM standings. Guillaume Paven able to come up on top for that class in total points. 22 points went his way. Dave Peterson was able to charge a few times to be able to make it there. But remember, that class had some drivers who did really well to start, who did not finish well.
Indeed, Ray Courtney and Michael Myers. Those were the two big drivers who were leading the race. The two teammates, by the way, for Scuderia Delta M. If I got that order correct, I will get that order correct by the end of tonight. Scuderia Delta 2. I don't know where the M came from. But yeah, they had a little bit of trouble. Look for them to be back on top here. And remember, the points in the AM class are not scored like they were in previous seasons. You don't get points for a win if you win in AM. Guillaume Paven got the amount of points for where he finished in the order last week. Not the points for a win. He got points for wherever he finished, 9th place. That's how AM points work this season. You're still in a different championship, but you're scoring points for your finish in the overall results.
And as a result, and keep in mind too, the team championship also starting off very well for two organizations. Wave Italy Racing Team, Evolve Formula 3. Their drivers did exceptionally well to start the season. How about a 23-point advantage over Agro CF Racing? But look at that. Atomic Racing, both of their entries, including the Atomic Monkey Butt car, inside the top 5.
Great way to represent themselves. Remember, Ryan Miles was the top driver for the Atomic Monkey Butt squad, if I remember correctly. And the big names for big Atomic Racing, of course, Steven Ritter's missed out on race 1, but Max Shabley is back. Robert Ridgway is back. Both drivers who have been extremely competitive in the past. They're going to continue to be competitive this season. Britannia iSports always competitive. Scuderia Delta 2, remember they got into trouble last week or last race. They'll be up the board. And Dark Horse Esports with Kevin San Diego. Kevin got taken out on lap 1 He is a race-winning driver in F3 in the PRL, though, so look for him to keep moving up as well.
Qualifying is underway, still 10 minutes to go on the board. That's how quick the race, despite the attrition at Bathurst, went for many. Andrew Waring, once again, top of the board in qualifying. Michael Coffray, Sebastian Coffray, Juan Coffray, the top 4 so far. And so far, the pace difference, 0.3 of a second amongst your top runners. This is Jacob Magers we're looking towards in the arena section right now.
I'm a big fan of this paint scheme as the mighty John Quinn gets into trouble through the multi-apex corner there. He was able to get out of the way. Luckily, that is the benefit of having absolutely massive amounts of runoff at this track, but Jacob Magers knows that he's probably not going to improve on that lap. He did have to check up for the mighty Quinn. He's going to come back down pit lane and I guess put a fresh set of tires on things to try again.
So obviously a different type of racetrack when it comes to Bathurst. More spacious, but lots of potential incident point sections still. How would you describe trying to battle at a race like this as we look at Michael Coffray, P2?
It's a track that bodes itself very well for actual racing. That's because it was designed for F1 racing, the objectively most difficult form of racing in the world, you can say, with the dirty air, with everything that we know is a problem in Formula One racing. This track was designed by Kevin Schwantz on the back of a napkin and Herman Tilke to not let that kind of thing happen, to make sure that F1 cars could actually race here. And when you've got an F3 car, even less downforce, even less dirty air, even smaller of a vehicle that can race side by side, isn't affected so much by the dirty air, it's going to put on a pretty good show here. You just have to make sure, again, to keep it within the lines, especially if you are racing side by side with another driver. There's plenty of room to play with, but you can't play with too much of it.
But the Coffrays in amongst themselves, the family members, really setting the gauntlet in terms of pace, all of them within about 0.2 of a second each other in qualifying. Coffrays have really picked it up compared to the attrition-filled years of 2021.
We talked about that in race 1 as well with Roberto on the grid. I don't know why Roberto Coffray isn't here. We don't have the full Coffray armada here tonight, but we do still have all 3 of them as Hamilton at Cabo Easy goes up into P3. But yeah, the Coffrays, when I raced in this series, sometimes it was a little bit of a worry to have, Sebastian Coffray, for example, behind you, because you knew he was going to be aggressive. You knew he was going to go for moves that weren't always going to work. But as the seasons have gone on, as Sebastian and Michael have moved to a team like Wave Italy Racing at the highest level of professional esports, they've figured out how to drive these things. It's not a worry when you're with the Coffray anymore. They have the pace, they can put on a show, and they're doing exactly that.
Team Kevin San Diego stopping for a moment. Jake Potts currently 18th. Those and watching for the first time how it's classified with the amount of drivers registered this season. Blue drivers are your pro drivers. The top drivers for the AM class are in pinkish purple. Jake Potts, amongst those 23rd overall, 18th in his respective class currently. Your top AM driver for reference is Rivera, Alexander Rivera, currently 1 second, make it half a second quicker than this car.
I don't remember if we saw Alexander Rivera at Suzuka in a couple of weeks ago. I'm checking the finishing results here, and I don't believe we did. So he's making his season debut here now that we're officially into 2023. Michael Myers was on pole last time out in the AM class. He's in second currently. And Ray Courtney didn't put it on pole. I believe Ray was second in qualifying, but took the lead after Michael was taken out on lap 1. Unfortunately, ran into trouble in the middle of the race, ended up giving the lead to Guillaume Pauvin. There's a lot of fast drivers in that AM class. You can tell because they've outqualified quite a few pros. There's a solid 10 or 15 pro drivers behind the top AM driver.
Coming to the final corner right now, Jake Potts on his respective lap. Coming towards the front straightaway, rodeo driveway is set up here at this facility. Does the lap count? No, it doesn't. Invalidate a lap commonality. Worth noting, one driver who is coming out of the pit lane right now for the run, Jordan Kuntz, also amongst the newcomers for tonight's action. Not to see much of car 99. He's moved up to 9th in the past moment. Michael Coffray back on screen in second.
Again, a little bit of airtime for John Quinn, the mighty Quinn, as he gets out of the way. But Michael Coffray up by 0.2. beats Andrew Waring to pole.
Michael Kofre able to pick up the time. He had 2 straight invalidated lap times. Waring looking for the response. Meanwhile, he's down the back straightaway, trying to build up the run before the arena section up to turn 12.
He's got no help on this long straight as well. It's not necessarily the same situation as Bathurst where you really need a draft if you want to beat everybody to pole. Michael Kofre's lap, I believe, was completely draft free. That was completely on his lonesome there. Waring, again, fighting all on his own here through the stadium section of this track, the most technical part of the circuit. There's multiple grooves here. There's multiple places you can place the car. Waring just kind of in the middle of the track, taking the normal line, basically, then multiple apexes here to finish the lap, basically flat out, depending on your setup. And then the most difficult corner at Circuit of the Americas, this second to last corner. It's high commitment, but you can't commit too much because of that runoff there. He keeps it within the lines, and then down into the only named corner on this track, the Andretti. Far more straightforward than the second to last corner. Still don't want to extend the track too much. Looked clean for Waring, but is it fast? Yes, it is. Beats Kofre by 2 more tenths.
0.2 of a second indeed picked up by Waring. Kevin Sandiego still in the 6th position meanwhile. Already looking to the left side of the racetrack. That's Hamilton Akabuizi he's working with a bit.
Hamilton Akabuizi in his new Evolve Sim Sport colors, by the way, not in the typical pink and yellow car we're used to seeing him in. He is officially with that team. He's teamed up with, as if they weren't good enough already, Evolve Sim Sports with last season's champion Andrew Waring. They've got a new bullet in their tank, and I think Kevin Sandiego is being a little bit sneaky here. He's slotted in behind Akabuizi. He knows Akabuizi's a little bit faster than him right now. He's going to try and steal a little bit of the draft, but Akabuizi says, nope, that's not going to happen. You're not getting my draft, Kevin. And Kevin, I think, pulled over for nothing there.
Might have gotten an off track there too. Hard to the inside of the orange sausage curb for about half the car. Down to the final 3 minutes or so in this qualifying session. Kevin Sandiego, 11th time around. Yes, indeed, it was invalidated there. And that seems to be the trend. Go more than halfway around a lot of these painted sections. Time may or may not stick. One driver who did stick their way past Kevin Sandiego, Max Preston. Jump up to 6. John Quinn, you mentioned, though. He's 18th overall, 4th in the class. He needs to make up a lot of time, though, to keep up with the top 2 in the class.
Had a very good race here last season, if I remember correctly, in the top 10. I saw him on Twitter today saying that his studio's in a little bit of disrepair right now, doing a little bit of updates to that, so we're not going to see him, but we are going to see him through the final corner with a little bit of a draft from one of the Atomic Racing cars. The mighty Quinn improves by 2 tenths, puts him P2 in class.
He splits Rivera should say, and Myers up in the board. A good qualifying spot so far. Of note, Byron Daly Munsto's also back in the field, 19th. Here's Akabuizi. I believe Akabuizi will take some time to be able to get speed. Remember, he pulled off the track, but he's expected to be a threat for the championship after being the dominant driver in IR04 competition last season again.
He was basically untouchable. There were only a few times in the IR04 season last time out where Hamilton Akabuizi looked human, frankly. He got beaten by Kevin Santana. He had a little bit of an issue with Michael Dowden at one point, but other than that, you put this guy up in the front of a race, he is going to run away with it. He put it on pole at Suzuka last time out as well in his F3 debut. He did make a bunch of mistakes, though. I believe he spun at Spoon Curve either once or twice, and that was what cost him the ability to be able to fight with Kofre's for the win. So he's still learning things in F3. He's still only 15 years old. But if you're this quick, you're making that few mistakes at that young age, and this newness to iRacing he has, I can only imagine how good he's going to be in about a year's time as one of the Unit Sim Sports drivers loses it in front of him. Akabuizi improves, but he's not going to be able to beat Kofre.
156.8, 10th back of Michael Kofre. Juan Kofre, Inaugural CF. He'll also loop it around in the final corner. Off the track. Zipping on by there was Brett Thurman. Ozzie Milway started off the season very quiet. Remember, he had some strong runs last season. 11th in qualifying. He ends up getting a 157.3, though, to get to the top 10.
Just barely behind Kevin Sandiego. Byron Daly, very disappointing qualifying for him, down in P20 right now. See if he can improve on a 158.0. It's tracking decently here, and there is that big improvement. 0.4 of a second. Jumps a couple of spots ahead of Justin Negretti in P12. Byron Daly now knows he doesn't have to start behind a couple of AM drivers. He is in that top 13 of pro splits here. James Molaire needs to do the same thing to jump up a little bit.
They're one of the final drivers who have a chance to set a time about 8 or so, and he won't do that. But he goes into burnout land. Michael Myers, very close to an off-track there in the arena section yet again. And the interesting thing again with this complex, the arena section they're driving around, mind you, is a concert facility. And an amphitheater is also on the grounds called Bull Stadium since 2017 in its construction involving soccer. So this complex has it all.
That's a dream for me. That's a bucket list item. I need to see a concert at the Coda Amphitheater. That needs to happen at some point in my life. Hopefully somebody good ends up there. But Michael Myers brings it down pit lane. He knew he wasn't going to improve. He'll be P3 in AM. It's only a few more drivers out on track. I think Robert Ridgway was still out there. And Byron Daly, he crossed the line with about a second to go. He's going to get one more shot at this.
It looks like Daly might try this. He did have the 1 second yes. See if he ends up pulling it in. Just about all his times, except for his first run, were 1 lap stints, then several invalidated lap times. So this may be a test for the pit lane. Ridgway might be more so one of the duels charging since it was 2 seconds off his personal best.
Byron Daly sliding just a little bit. Tires are struggling a little bit through the second to last corner. Again, most difficult corner on the track, keeps it within the lines. We've seen a lot of trouble through this final corner, a lot of drivers looping it around. Daly's not quite in control, and I think that little bobble, that's going to be what loses him a little bit of time. Maybe not all those 3/10. But you don't want to be bobbling like that into the final corner. That's going to be a trouble spot coming into the race.
Didn't count either way. So it doesn't matter, and Byron Daly celebrates the end of his qualifying by sending to the stand in front of the fans. Or well, the empty side of the fans. With that, all drivers have set their qualifying times. 44 entrants tonight, 41 setting times in the session. Our F3 machines all set to go. Andrew Waring will start on the pole today. Michael Coffray starts in second, while Hamilton Economese breaks out the Coffray brothers in third. Sebastian Wan in fifth. Max Preston and Kevin Sandiego, along with Ozzie Milwayne, the top 8 positions. Max Preston, one of his best starting spots of the year. Jacob Majors and Jordan Kuntz, his first start of the season in car 99, about a second off the pole. Still a top 10 start for the Proximity Racing driver. Joey Haynes and Byron Daly, the top 12. Behind them is Justin Negretti, then your first 3 AM drivers. Rivera, Quinn, and Myers. Brett Thurman also there amongst the 4, then Molaire in 18th. Ethan DeVita starts in 19th. Ray Courtney starts in 20th, a bit further back compared to the strong run at Suzuka. Ryan Miles will also have to do the same from 21st. Tower Pierre Richards, Jake Potts, and Spencer Ritzma, the top 24. Richard Swindells, along with Olivier Legnon, top 26. Roberto Coffray, you asked where he was, Joey? There he is. He's back in the field, 1.7 seconds back. Brad Miller, Ryan Kings, and Eric Dubé are back there. Yes, hi, Roberto. 31st spot tonight goes to David Lehman, along with Sergio Gonzalez Martin in 55 number. Errolton Smith, he was also in contention last time out, 33rd. Nestor De La Fuente, 34th. With Victor Chamorro, 35th. Guillaume Pavin way back today. He'll start 36th. Robert Ridgway, the last driver to set a time for pro, followed by James Carter, George Gonzaga, Matthew Brunner, and Dave Peterson. 2:01.9 his personal best. Cody Grams, Raymond Day, Marc-Andre LaRoche did not set times. Grams is not at the facility currently. Guillaume Pavin also in the same boat, potentially can miss the start. Your keys to victory, 30 seconds until green.
We saw so much drama at Suzuka last week with just a little bit of an incident through the S's with Kevin Sandiego. He's going to want to make sure that doesn't happen again. We do have S's here at Coda. The second you get through turn 1, which is a pinch point in and of itself, you're still going to be side by side. You've still got to navigate through the S's. Just like at Bathurst, you got to survive lap 1.
The entire field now waiting on just Robert Ridgway. That driver has now reached the grid. It's time to go racing. 22 laps up on the board from Texas. Glad to have you with us. PRL F3 Series action, powered by VCO, underway from Coda. And a terrible start for Waring. 3 wide for the lead. Michael Kofrey to the outside. Hamilton at Kaboeasy takes the point. 3-4 wide as they make their way down the hillside for the first elevation change of the race to the S's.
Generally clean stuff, a little bit of argy-bargy with Ozzy Milwane and Juan Kofrey. Kevin Sandiego back in control. Here's the S's now. You got to get things single-filed out here. It's so difficult to run side-by-side through here. Looks like at least in the top 10, we've made it through. I don't see much smoke or any damage in the background. We figured things out so far.
Most drivers able to do well, owing George Gonzaga in the 30s having issues. Waring already cycled to third as a result of the poor launch. Kaboeasy Michael Kofrey trying to settle things out. Michael Kofrey looking to pull away, though, from the sea of evolved cars. Off the track goes a Kaboeasy. Here comes Waring.
Kaboeasy didn't need to outbreak himself there. Waring was hanging back. He was making sure his teammate didn't lose touch with Kofrey, but Kaboeasy made that mistake coming into the braking zone, and that's going to give Kofrey a huge gap here. Waring is barely within the clutches of the draft. All these Evolved SimSport drivers are in a good position to not fight with each other, but now suddenly there's nobody between Waring and Kaboeasy as Kaboeasy's trying to fight Sebastian Kofrey off.
Waring now a second back. Sebastian Kofrey fighting with the sea of evolved cars. Wave Italy and Evolve amongst the top 6+ cars so far. There goes Sebastian Kofrey now up to third. Kaboeasy now thinking about the long way, making their way out of the arena section. Not going to work. The top 6 in turn have broken away by more than a second for the rest of the field. One issue at the back of the field for Eric Dubé. Everybody else has survived lap 1.
That rear left tire for Eric Dubé has seen better days, but this is a critical moment here for Hamilton and Kaboeasy. There's a bobble from Sebastian Kofrey, and this is exactly what Andrew Waring needed. He needed his teammate to get between him and Sebastian Kofrey, because Kofrey is thinking about his brother Michael in the lead. If Sebastian could fight with Andrew Waring, he could slow him down and make sure Michael is able to hang on to the lead at least. But Kaboeasy's doing that in the exact opposite way. He's holding back Sebastian Kofrey. He's making sure his teammate Andrew Waring can at least go for an attempt at the fight with the race lead.
How about Max Preston, though, zipping by a Kaboeasy? Preston lets him have the spot. So the rookie F3 driver shuffled all the way back to 5th. That's allowed Ozzy Milwane to make it a 1 through 7 for 2 organizations. An unbelievable start, already a 3-second gap to Joey Haynes and Jordan Kuntz who are fighting.
There's been a couple of big losers on lap 1. Of course, Eric Dubé was the only driver who was out, but actually Byron Daly and Raymond Day are both in trouble now. As I mentioned that, we look a little bit further back to Michael Myers now, and if you see in the background a black and green car, bop, boop, booby doo bop. Where in the world is Kevin Sandiego? He's had a terrible start. Qualified just outside of the top 6. Saw him have a little bit of a bobble on lap 1, but he's all the way back to 15th. It has been a heck of a struggle for the 2nd week in a row for Kevin Sandiego.
We did mention Jordan Kuntz. Well, he has mandatory repairs amongst this pack. Kevin Sandiego has a black flag already.
Oh dear.
George Gonzaga has the same issue. Some drivers are picking up black flags possibly with the track cuts. Michael Myers currently leads the M class meanwhile. Rivera and Quinn amongst the top 3 so far. So trouble is afoot just about everywhere it seems so far. And this lap alone, on top of Dubé, Kuntz, Day, Carter, and that car in Kings, all mandatory repairs along Daly.
I feel very bad for Ryan Kings. He switched to this F3 series this season to get a little bit of a change of scenery after having a hellish season last season in the IRO4s and the MX5s. He couldn't catch a break. Unfortunately, he's not been able to catch a break in 2023 either. But that's not really not catching a break. That was Ryan Kings trying to dive to the inside of Victor Chamorro there, I believe. And that did not work out very well. That was a little bit of a low percentage move from him there. And Kevin Sandiego, I'm looking at him in pit lane. Did he get a black flag or did he get a meatball? I think it was a black flag. Yeah, he just did a drive-through. He got 13 incident points in the space of 2 laps.
How?
Good question.
How?
Where in the world did Kevin Sandiego?
Well, we're looking at the battle for 15th and Pro. Power Pierre Richards, despite all the trouble that just happened in front of him, did not really pick up many spots. In fact, just 2 so far for the 301. Always known for the colorful cars that we've seen. In fact, a little bit more of a rainbowish look this season behind Olivier Legenot.
Looks like a beautiful Easter egg, and he's in a Pro-Am sandwich here. Brad Miller behind, Olivier Legault up ahead. Tyler Pierre Richards' specialty, especially last season, was, again, like some other drivers, just kind of picking up the pieces, hanging out, not necessarily going for the most spectacular moves in the world, but just moving forward little by little as there's a huge lockup in the background. I believe that was Ray Courtney just completely losing it, completely sideways. And actually that was Spencer Reitzma, who's under pressure from Ray Courtney now.
As that is the 90 trying to sort things out. Courtney has gained a spot this lap. Roberto Cofre also in this pack. Courtney for Scuderia Delta 2. All over the racetrack trying to search around. A little peek, another cut again. Courtney has had to check up several times this sector alone for one car.
And another off track for Reitzma there. Courtney's going to dive into the inside. Another off track, I believe. You can't use that much of the green runoff there. Drivers are accumulating incident points like they're, I don't know, Texas barbecue or something. They're eating them up. Here comes Ray Courtney to the inside, into the widest turn 1 in the world. And Ray Courtney still not able to clear Spencer Reitzma, though. The outside, you can get momentum built up out there, even though it is a very, very tight corner. Now Courtney's under pressure from Roberto Cofre.
Roberto Cofre forced to check up a little bit. All through the S's again, side by side, not recommended as you talked about. These drivers currently 20 seconds adrift already in the span of 3 1/4 laps. Overall race leader, and there goes Reitzma. That was coming.
I think you could definitely say that was coming. That's a huge off, but those tires seem to be overheated. That little checkup now allows Roberto Cofre to come through here, but let's see what happened to Reitzma. He was already getting a drift on, tried to lock down the brakes, but locking down the brakes in the middle of the road didn't quite work out for him. And I think for the second week in a row, Ray Courtney's going to have a little bit of damage. It's not hurting him too bad, though. He's going to dive to the inside of Cofre here.
Somehow no visible wing damage on Courtney's car. Roberto Cofre still not able to fully take advantage yet, trying the long way around, heading towards the arena section. Does get the preferred line back. Courtney lets him have it. Here comes Nestor De La Fuente as a result, 2 into this grouping, along with Richard Swindells.
Hasn't been the best lap 1 in the world for Atomic Racing or for Atomic Monkey Butt, but Richard Swindells, you do see in the back of this train, he's kind of the lead survivor. Ryan Miles, a little bit further ahead, is the lead survivor for Atomic Racing, but Robert Ridgway didn't get much practice or qualifying in, I don't think. He's a little bit further back as well. James Carter is on pit lane right now. He ran into a little bit of trouble. We didn't see that. Things are still kicking off up front, though. The Evolve SimSport party's not over.
Juan Cofre has also fallen off pace-wise. How about a second slower than the race leaders last time by? After being in the middle of the lead pack, he's dropped to the tail end of pack 2.
Andrew Waring, in the meantime, has closed up to Cofre, so while all of the other Evolve drivers fight, Andrew Waring has been doing his work all on his lonesome. Hamilton Akabuizi's defense for just a couple of laps. Even though Sebastian Cofre did get by in the end, the defense that Akabuizi did really helped Waring to just be able to fight on his lonesome in P2, get back into the draft of Michael Cofre. And I believe those are the same 2 drivers that fought for this win last season. It was Cofre versus Waring versus Kevin Sandiego. We're about to see part 2, at least for the moment.
Looking towards the back end of the field again. Tyler Pierre Richards will just have to dodge Jake Potts to be able to gain a few more spots, but he's starting to pick them off one by one in the pro class to 14th. Not how we expected maybe to get to 14th with the car in the middle of the track. Bit of offensive line in front. That forces the crayon car to the outside.
Ethan Tavitas in that number 999. Very happy to see him back on the grid. He was the inaugural champion of the IR04 series. Before that series was actually broadcasted, he won a dominant championship in the shadows a little bit. He was supposed to race in this series last season. Couldn't quite find the time on Thursday nights, though. Very happy to see Ethan Tavitas here in 2023, though. Very competitive driver. in open wheel NGT3 machinery. Struggling a little bit in the midfield here, but he didn't have a great qualifying. He is moving his way forward for YS Motorsports.
Betas still just a +1 though for the race in itself so far. So far, well, 16 laps to go this time by in the race. It's been an eventful one. And so far, the gaps are starting to build back up again in the M class in particular. So some of these drivers, really with the error watch and some of the errors we're seeing, really paying the price.
And the pros kind of in the mix are really hurting things. There's Michael Myers and Alexander Rivera directly next to each other on track, but John Quinn, the Mighty Quinn, he's actually got a pro in between him and Rivera. He's got Ryan Miles there, so that's going to make the battle for the podium somewhat interesting. If Ryan Miles does pick up the pace a little bit, start to fight with those two AMs, that might be exactly what John Quinn needs to get back into the fight for third. But things are very interesting in this Pro-Am split land, especially when everybody's fighting for the same points here. There may be a Pro-Am split for a championship, but there's not a Pro-Am split for the points. Every position matters.
Mentioned the point split involving John Quinn and Ryan Miles right now. Ryan Miles up 7 spots so far. Mentioned one of the top, in fact, the top atomic cars so far, trying to run up to Alexander Rivera and take some points there, as well as Michael Myers. Good charge for Ryan Miles after a poor qualifying.
Yeah, Ryan Miles, I saw him say before the race, I feel so slow here. He might have been slow in qualifying, but he is absolutely improving himself, and he's absolutely representing himself in race pace here. It's a whole new Ryan Miles once the race has started. And next up in front of him, that is not John Quinn cloned. That beautiful rookie esports with MRP paint scheme with Rivera and Quinn and Matt Brewer. It's been duplicated. There's multiple of them. They're multiplying. And Ryan Miles is having a little bit of deja vu right now because he's got to pass that same livery again with Alexander Rivera.
How do you know he's not a clone, though? You wouldn't name your clone your exact same name.
That is true. That is true.
Good charge.
I would name my clone Quinn John if I was John Quinn. Just flip it out. That might be too similar to Qui-Gon Jinn.
Michael Myers nearly goes all the way to the grass in the runoff space. Picks up some incident points along the way. Losing some ground. Here comes Rivera again through the S's. Face full of arrow wash.
Suddenly, it just takes one mistake to bring the battle for the lead back into contention. Just way too much speed into turn one. Completely missed his braking point. Luckily, there was all that runoff there to make sure his mistake wasn't too bad, but he is going to get one of those incident points, and as those start to rack up, you do have to start thinking about racing differently. If you are teetering on the edge, if you end up with like 11, 12 incident points, you're at the verge of a penalty, you have to drive differently. You have to drive conservatively. Myers made another mistake, though, coming into breaking into turn 11 there, and that's going to give Rivera a shot at the lead.
This is for the AM lead once again. The run up the left side. Rivera gets it done before the corner. Miles watches behind as Myers backs it up. Get back in line. Ryan Miles still 2 car leads back of the both of them.
So that same switchback dynamic that I talked a little bit about in the IRO4 race. Rivera has been in Michael Myers' coattails for the entirety of this race. He's had another car ahead of him to base his braking points on. He's had another piece of perspective. Now he finds himself at the head of the train. He's basically got to remember, how do I drive this track again? How did I do this in qualifying without a car in front of me? Of course, he's done a very good job, though. Hasn't made any mistakes. Michael Myers is going to be very, very aggressive on offense, though.
Seen it right there with the charge to the final corner, in fact. 15 to go. That charge to the corner lost him some ground, however, so have to reset. Try and build up a run for the back straightaway yet again. Remember, the more they fight too, the more that opens up the door for Quinn and Thurman, who are working together a bit and are now just about within the draft.
They've been inching their way forwards, and Brett Thurman, he's been kind of the driver we haven't talked about at all in this battle. He's been hanging back a little bit. He had some trouble in qualifying. We saw him not able to maximize some of his best laps with a couple of mistakes. Brett Thurman's a strong race driver. He can definitely move his way forward through the field. And John Quinn's probably thinking, hey, it's great that my teammate's holding up the leader. We'll have 2 rookie esports with modern racing Prince cars in the fray here. He's got to worry more about Brett Thurman coming from behind, though.
There's Quinn. He's in the draft within the second, working behind Miles. Now they work down the straightaway, still keeping an eye on Myers. There is a look now at Quinn. Quinn has the chance to pick up maybe a double toe down the straight for the rookie esports car, but no major toe yet. If anything, Miles has better toe than both of them.
It is a DRS straight here. No DRS in these F3 cars, but you do get locked in a sort of a draft train. So Quinn wasn't able to do anything. Myers wasn't able to do anything. Nobody in that train was able to do anything because everybody had the same amount of draft. They were all closing at the same rate. They might as well have been nowhere near each other. But the real differences have been coming in these tight and technical sections. At turn 1 and in the stadium section, it's like it's a completely different track between Michael Myers and John Quinn. They're running completely different lines, and it's ended up evening out. So I think both of them are going to have to try new things as the 2 KFM drivers are having a good time here at the back of the field.
Sergio Martin, Nestor De La Fuente heads to this fight. These are 2 drivers looking to make up some ground after the opening round of the campaign as well for their respective unit. Curious how they play things out. There was the discussion with the chance of seeing one of the drivers return to the grid for the number 55. 2 drivers have claimed that number. Sergio Gonzalez Martin got the advantage in turn for the number.
And poor old Max Shabley switched his number. I was so ready to talk about him with his new number, his new mindset, but no. Unfortunately, Max Shabley couldn't be here with us tonight. He should be back next week, but Sergio Gonzalez Martin out on lap 1 at Suzuka. He was so sad because he put so much practice in. He was awake until the depths of the night, and he got taken out on lap 1. So he was disappointed, but good to see him back, and he's having a pretty solid race with his teammate Nestor De La Fuente. Nestor's going to lose him here, though. Nestor doesn't quite have the same pace as Sergio. Brad Miller's behind. He's got quite a bit of speed. Ayrton Smith, who was so strong last race, he's got a lot more progress to make up here as well. And Kevin Sandiego with his penalty, he's behind there as well. You can see him lurking.
Yeah, Sandiego had 18 seconds be his time penalty, but he's 40 seconds back. Still looking at how things are faring out in some of these drivers in these trains. The blue machine up in front, that's Brad Miller. Ayrton Smith, you mentioned. A very quick name, I think he said, at Suzuka. I mean, come on, the t-shirt looks like it's from a certain team in a certain series.
Of course, that's one of the fastest names in racing. You know, you've got Regan Smith, and that's about it.
Wait, what's wrong with Regan Smith? He won the Southern 500 once.
Exactly. That's the only racing name in Ayrton Smith's name. He's repping the Smith name very well. I don't know what the other name is. There's some guy named Ayrton. I don't know.
For those wondering, yes, he is involved in motorsports with Delta 2 as the Real World founder and reopened the team just last year that works on trying to work with sponsorship campaigns, etc. He also has PR experience as the head of marketing for Atlanta Speedworks. Oh, and he's a military veteran with the U.S. Army. Nearly getting rammed from behind, that is Victor Chamorro saying, there's a 3rd KFM car. I'm that 3rd car. Thank you for 26 overall.
Happily going to join the fray now to chase down his other teammate and Brad Miller as well. Kevin Sandiego, he's still lurking, but he's struggling. He's got Jake Potts with him as well. Or actually, he doesn't. That's David Lamont right behind him, but Sandiego can't afford a single bit of contact. He's guaranteed to be at 13 incident points if he did get a drive-through. At 17 incident points, you get disqualified. So Sandiego's basically driving on eggshells. First of all, he can't accumulate more off-tracks. He can't get 4 of them. But you get 4 incident points for contact. He can't even slightly make contact with another driver, or he's out of here, just like Olivier Legault is out of the track limits there.
That was behind Ethan Tavidas. And yep, loop-de-loop.
Very hard in the brakes into turn 11, but it wasn't under braking. He was on exit, gets on the throttle a little bit too early, and there it goes. Not quite an IR04 spin. Doesn't quite spin that easily as there's trouble under braking into turn 12. Victor Chamorro, or actually David Lamont, and Brad Miller have come together.
Yes, indeed, in the braking zone, and that may need a second look. We take a look at the leaders, bumper to wing to wing. How about, wow.
Kevin Sandiego got super lucky there, but actually I don't think that was luck. That was a smart move by Sandiego to just send it through the middle, get out of trouble.
Trouble Davidas.
Oh dear.
Davidas, who was also up in that group, just spun around in the final corner. So now all of this is while the leaders, they've stayed within about 3 to 7 tenths. Here's what happened to Davidas as, just so you know, Jake Potts has reached the incident mark. Drivers such as this one, pretty close to it now. For the lead on the right side of the screen, Waring licks the stamp and sends it.
Waring has been wearing down on Kofre this whole time, but Kofre's going to fight back. He's getting the draft until the very last second. I thought he almost waited a little bit too long there, but they're going to be side by side coming into turn 12 here. Who's going to be later on the brakes? You know Waring's going to be aggressive on the inside, but he's not on the optimal line on the inside there. Kofre's going to continue to fight back. He's going to squeeze him, but Waring's clear.
Waring is clear. Waring to the race lead, looking to lead his first lap of the day. Michael Kofre looking to peak once again. Off to the arena section, to the hard braking zone in the middle of the corner. Trying for the cross, no slide through yet as they make their way up towards turn 17 and 18. Kofre goes the long way.
He's trying to go the long way. It's not going to work for him. These cars just aren't really fast enough to do something like that. You're basically guaranteed to fall behind with the additional distance that you're taking there. But Kofre's going nowhere here. If he can nail this final corner, he's got a great opportunity down the front straight into turn 1, and he's done exactly that. It's a great run out of the final corner. Waring's definitely going to defend to the inside, but Kofre's going to try and go around the outside. Same way he was able to get the lead on lap 1. He's going to try and replicate that 12 laps later.
Looking to the outside through turn 1. Drivers behind them getting into trouble upon trouble. Michael Kofre looking to avoid trouble, battling for the point. Michael Kofre takes the lead back after Waring scored his first lead lap of the halfway point. But several drivers behind them, including Ozzie Milwane and Nestor De La Fuente, did get into incidents. So more attrition building, and these drivers have to be on the eggshells and then some, even for this lead for the incident points with how it's going behind them.
Yeah, well, Waring has been fighting for the lead for Evolve Simsport. His teammates have been having a terrible day. Hamilton Akabuizi, I think, spun at one point. He's fallen out of the fight for the podium with Sebastian Kofre, and Ozzie Milwane is completely gone. He's fallen down to 15th. That's allowed Juan Kofre to get up into the top 6. But Evolve Formula 3, they've got one gun. Everybody else is falling apart.
I was about to say in the backdrop, Sebastian Kofre just about spun it. Michael Kofre still trying to break the toe, again up by half a second. Kofre seems to be very quick, Michael should say, once he gets clean air. Behind them, Sebastian, not so easy with Max Preston looking for a charge to take advantage of a slide. Preston peels him off the preferred line and takes the inside. With a technical issue, he still makes it work.
And hey presto, he's back, and then he's gone, and then he's back, and then he's gone. Either way, he was able to make that move, but Kofre's going to be kind of worried right now. It's not fun when you're racing a car that isn't in the world when you're trying to go side by side with them. Looks like things are resolved for the moment, though. I don't know if Max Preston... Nope, well, as I say that, they're not resolved at all. Hopefully they do get resolved, because Kofre is not going to be happy racing with a ghost.
Not only that, it's been talked about by some drivers. When you have that, you lose the draft effect. In fact, he misses the corner with all that trouble. Sebastian Kofre just about loses the draft entirely.
Kofre does especially want him there, like you said, because he will give him the draft. If the car isn't there, you don't get the draft. It's not like there's a ghost of the car on the track that you still get the draft from. No, physics does not work that way. You don't get a draft if the car in front of you isn't there. Luckily, I guess, or conveniently rather, Kofre's fallen out of draft range already. There's a full second up to Max Preston now. He doesn't have to worry about that. He can let Max Preston blink all he wants until he can get back in draft range.
Ozzie Milwane's reached the incident mark to receive a penalty, so he's now come in for a pit stop at the same time. Leaders are also reaching lap traffic for the first time. Eric Dubé up the road from these battlers for the 3rd position to deal with. So keep in mind, the pit window's starting to open these times around for some of the drivers.
I don't don't think you're allowed to serve your 13X penalty while you're also making a pit stop. It has to be a drive-through penalty.
Correct.
So Ozzy Millane is going to have to come through again. That's going to hurt very, very badly as Michael Myers is really getting held up here. That's James Molaire, one of the pros, trying to move his way forward in the field. But Michael Myers has lost 5 seconds up to Alex Rivera.
He lost a lot of that time in the past couple laps. Remember, there was some troubles before we referred to. He dropped off the pace by a second. He now passes by Molaire for now. Molaire, though, not making it easy on him. Well, the pro driver saying, this is my spot to the left side. Michael Myers goes for the cross, nearly runs him over for good measure.
And John Quinn is on the scene now. These two have been side by side for 1 lap, and there's John Quinn, there's Brett Thurman. It's now a 3-car battle for second place as Andrew Waring, I think, went for a dive on Michael Coffray up front, lost the lead, and Waring's actually taken the lead because Michael Coffray is in. Quinn and Myers are all over the place. It's all kicking off as the pit window opens.
And this is one of the earlier pit calls of the season, coming to 9 to go at that time by the stripe. We usually see drivers pit around the 6 to go mark, a little earlier today.
I think Michael must have seen a window on track somewhere that he could come out without being in traffic. He exits pit lane now. Who's going to come by him? Ryan Miles comes by. Ryan Miles doesn't come by, rather. Ryan Miles is going to stay behind him. And Michael Coffray has definitely timed that perfectly. There's 3 seconds up to Justin DeGretti. He's found a perfectly clean bit of track to just try and do some qualifying lap times and try and make sure he can keep the lead over Andrew Waring because he doesn't want to fight with him any longer than he has to. Andrew Waring has to do the same thing in reverse right now, though, and make sure this is the fastest lap of his race. He can try and pull an overcut over Michael Coffray because there's no tire changes that are going to play any role in this. It's all down to your speed on these in and out laps.
Be huge. He has about a 5.7 second cushion over his teammate Max Preston. Already, his competitor Michael Coffray has completed his service. For reference, has come out in front of Ryan Miles, and no drafting help either. So the raw skill going to be huge this time around. Does Waring respond, or does he try and stretch the tank after saving the gas?
That's not going to help. Big lock up there into the last corner of the stadium section at turn 15. This has been a messy lap for Andrew Waring. I don't know if this is going to be especially fast. I don't know if this is going to help him take the lead. But if I was him, I'd just be coming in right now. I'd be stopping the bleeding. I'd be stopping myself from losing any more time, and I'd be covering off Michael Coffray. Thank you, Andrew Waring, for proving me right.
Indeed right, nearly into the Armco. Down to the speed limit, using the limiter at 50 miles per hour today. Now what's the question for the Pro Class lead? Hamilton at Coboese's had an issue on the track. No issues so far for Michael Coffray this lap. He has a good chance to try and pull with the lead by a decent margin. Down the straightaway, Waring, 4.8 seconds, a quicker pit stop. Waring, coming into the braking zone, has the inside. Michael Coffray, the outside. Here comes Coffray. It's Waring to the lead by 1 car length.
Coffray's going to have slightly warmer tires right now. Waring isn't on new tires. Neither of these drivers are. They didn't change them. But just by sitting in pit lane for that little bit, just by crawling for that little bit, Waring is going to be slightly cooler on those tires, while Coffray is on full tire temp after doing a full lap around. Waring's taking the lead. He's managed to switch everything around there, but things are about to get very, very dicey as there's been trouble in the background. That's Alex Rivera, I think, or that's Matt Brewer, or that's John Quinn. They painted all the cars exactly the same.
As talked about, though, one of the contenders, Hamilton at Coboese, in trouble, and our first crash in the pit lane this year. That was Quinn for the previous spin. It's a Coboese for this one.
Oh, his teammate came in there.
That was Joey Haynes who ran him over.
It has devolved for Evolve SimSport with just that one mistake. It's going to be embarrassing for him, but everybody's done that. It's such a difficult pit entry. Right on board with Hamilton here. You just want to commit as much as you can, and he committed a little bit too much. His teammate Joey Haynes is going to come onto the scene and kind of do exactly the same thing. He probably would have made it if Coboese's front wing wasn't there, but he was overly committed to Devolve SimSports.
I mean, there's still an Evolve car at the front of the field coming to 7 to go. Waring. Now with the chance to score them strong points, Michael Coffray looking to secure a strong victory. He leading 11 of the 14 so far. Waring's led 3 of the 14 complete. They have a 7-8 second cushion for Sebastian Coffray and Max Preston after their pit stops this time around. Now it's down to 7 laps to go, 3/10 the difference.
Coffray in the draft, a little bit too far back to send a dive into turn 1 this time, but he's going to keep the pressure on Andrew Waring. He was able to pass him last time out. Coffray's definitely the fastest driver in the short run here. It's just a question of whether he can keep the tires under him. He's been very good at that recently, and whether he can actually make the move on Waring. If Waring doesn't make any mistakes, it's going to be a tough move, but Coffray's sticking with him.
Michael Coffray backing up to the S's. Remember, this is a very tight section. Air wash, you have to think, might be a factor here for him to back it up like that for the run.
It absolutely is through the S's. Luckily, turn 11, which is probably the most critical corner on the track, taking you onto that long back straight, you're not really going to have to worry about dirty air because it is such a heavy braking zone. It's such a tight hairpin that basically you're just focusing on your own exit. You're not really thinking about the dirty air. It was a good exit for Coffray there. He's within about 0.4 of a second. Waring is going to get a little bit of help from one of the lap cars from KFM Motorsports, who's going to pull out of the way. Meanwhile, his teammate, the 309, Victor Chamorro, caused a little bit of pileup back there.
Juan Coffray is now out of the race as well from the 5th position. The leader's still scrambling and scrapping a little bit. How about who's in 5th now because of that? Ryan Miles is in 5th.
Boo-hoo, guys, I feel so slow. And he's driven his way up to P5. Ryan Miles, he's Mr. Sneaky this season. Takeshi Kita left the F3 series to race in the IR04s. There's room for a Mr. Sneaky at Atomic Racing now. It might be Ryan Miles.
That's amongst the drivers doing really well behind them. Now the leaders separate by half a second again. How do you play this if you're Michael Coffray?
Well, if I'm Michael Coffray, I'm probably getting aggressive. If I'm me, I'm not catching up with Andrew Waring. There's trouble in the background as well for, I believe that's Ray.
See the replay?
Yeah, it's a replay for Juan Coffray, potentially. One of those drivers losing it.
Yeah.
At the wall there. But Michael Coffray is basically just going to have to live up to what he's been doing every single lap and just hope that he can maximize that exit out of turn 11. Hope that Waring makes another mistake.
Michael Coffray staying a little bit closer to Waring this time. We're going to ride the very edge of some of these curbs currently. 2 of the 4 Coffrays remain. Michael Coffray slides all the way off the circuit for a moment. Still keeps within half a second, heading up towards the set for the backstretch.
Those little mistakes for Coffray aren't going to help him. He needs to make sure he's within range of Waring at every single opportunity. Just because that little mistake, he's going to be within the range of the draft. He's going to be able to use it. He's not going to be able to go for a move, though, because he's just that little bit too far back. 0.6 is too big of a gap to be able to close up and to be able to go for a dive into turn 12. By the way, that spin that we saw a little bit earlier, that rookie esports with Modern Racing Prince car that spun, that was John Quinn, the Mighty Quinn, out of second. So he's fallen off the podium. Brett Thurman's stolen that spot from him.
Rivera has quietly crept his way up to one of the best runs in a while for an AM-class driver in this series. Rivera is quietly in the 6th overall position right now.
He's actually side by side with Jacob Majors right now, so a pro and an AM fighting side by side. That might be what Thurman and Myers want to see to bring down that 8-second gap. But here comes Michael Coffray again for the lead through the final corner. Waring has just been picture perfect. Coffray's been following him in the tire tracks in the 3rd sector. That was a great exit out of the final corner. Not going to get a shot into turn 1 this time, but he's doing what he needs to do, just sticking with Waring and making sure Waring doesn't get any sort of comfort here out front.
5 to go. Time also could be a factor. About 9 minutes on the clock. If things boil over, it could be tight. Michael Coffray all over the rear end again of Waring. Lifts off a little bit early. It allows Waring to build up some advantages and slide through the S's.
It was a smart move from Coffray to back out like that. You don't want to be right in the nose of Andrew Waring's car and have to do a huge checkup and lose all that time. He did still lose a little bit of time. He's fallen back to about 0.6 again, but he kind of minimized his losses there. He's got to think in the coming laps, though. That's his weakest point. The last couple of corners in the S's and coming up the hill there through 8, 9, and 10, Kofre has been far, far worse than Andrew Waring, and that has just killed any chance of him being able to make a move down this long back straight. That's the frustrating thing. You might have similar pace to a driver in front of you, but if you can't maximize the places you need to maximize, you're basically just going to be riding in train mode. So Kofre needs to make sure he can figure out what the heck to do in turn 8, 9, and 10 in the last 3 laps of this race.
Now, if anything, even down that straight, not close up any ground on Andrew Waring. Waring might have this opportunity to pull away, or he can bobble it away and lose 2/10.
And for as long as Michael Kofre's been making mistakes, Andrew Waring's been doing the same thing. They've been kind of equal. By the way, I mentioned Brett Thurman up into second in AM. He's had a little bit of a spin. He's fallen off the podium now. John Quinn takes third back in AM. Let's see what happened here to Mr. Brett Thurman. Target fixation. James Molaire was a little bit offline. I think Thurman got in the brakes a little bit too much to make sure he didn't get into the side of him. And he wasn't expecting that amount of brake pressure and that amount of load in the car. And it loops around for him. That's going to hurt.
The line looked a little bit on the low side too, you could say.
It definitely did. It was just a little bit narrow, too much steering. And when you're just completely changing your inputs like that and you're not expecting it, that's what can easily loop you around, especially in a very, very tight corner like that. Up here at Michael Kofre again, he's struggling through the same corners. He's 6/10 back through the S's, and now we're in his worst spot in the track, up through turn 7, up through turn 8, up through turn 9. If he's already at 7/10, I worry that might be over a second by the time we get to turn 11.
Being 3/10 of a second alone last time by. Another 10 picked up to the S's. Waring, now that he's got the clean space, trying to hold on for now. Michael Myers still trying to find a way around this pro car. James Molaire, this is 9th overall, and you can see how big the delta is between the M cars. 8 seconds. Myers has lost a lot of time behind this 9 car.
Myers is mired behind James Molaire right now, but he does need to make this move. After the trouble he had in race 1, he qualified on pole, got taken out on lap 1. He's on a recovery drive for this whole season, and he does need to fight with the pro, because remember, you do get points for every single position. You score the points based on your finishing position, not in your position in class. So that 9th place, it's 1 more point. That's how the points work in the Precision Racing League. And that could be the 1 point that makes the difference at the end of the season. James Molaire goes snake mode down the back straight. Michael Myers is going to have to fight for this one.
There's snake mode, and then there is trying to be a massive anaconda snake. That time a little close to the walls. Doesn't help that Molaire nearly locks it up out of the corner. Myers peels him off the bottom as a result. Side by side up to the arena section. Myers tries to run right side. There tries to hug it on the left side. Crossover attempt for Myers coming off the corner. Back side by side of the arena.
Crossover only works if you can get the grip under the tires. And Michael Myers, those tires are struggling. It's been 20 laps here at COTA. Those things are getting a little bit shredded. So he wasn't able to make the switchback work, but he is able to keep the pressure on Molaire. Molaire turns in a little bit late through the second to last corner. Myers not able to get to the inside, though, but you can tell that James Molaire is having to be defensive, and he's absolutely feeling the pressure. We're seeing mistakes out of him that we don't normally see, and now Michael Myers has to run down the front straight.
They're again going heavy defensive to the left side of the track. The importance of making passes even on the pro drivers. If you're in the M class, we're seeing how aggressive some drivers willing to be. Now to the final 2.5, 3 laps to go. Waring has taken the lead. With some of the traffic, Michael Kofre has closed up to said lead. Michael Kofre just about taking the lead. Should about to say James Carter utilized as the traffic. Michael Kofre definitely benefited from the double toe, though.
He absolutely did. We're back below 3/10 now, and Kofre needs to take advantage of this. Don't lose all this time you've been given. If you can be this close coming out of the final corner, you might have a shot down the front straight. Waring going for a wide line in the last corner of the stadium section just to try and maximize the run here. Coming into the final sector, Kofre's in the dirty air, but he's been given a gift with that lap traffic here through the second to last corner. The dirty air is going to be hurting Kofre bad. Waring so committed through there. He's incredible through the second to last corner. but he has bobbled a couple of times through the last corner. He's not going to do it this time, though. Kofray's going to be the one who goes for a little bit of a drift.
Incident limit infraction, Max Preston, 4th overall. Now have to serve a drive-through with 2 laps to go. If they don't serve the penalty, it is a time penalty served at the end of the race. Michael Kofray still waits in the S's. This has been his bad spot. He needs to find time, and he needs to find it now.
Waring's just absolutely in the rhythm. I don't even think he's looking at his mirrors right now because he frankly knows that he's better than Michael Kofray through that sector of the track. And again, through turn 7, you can physically see the understeer from this outside perspective. Kofray is struggling coming up the hill. And there's that 7/10 gap again. Andrew Waring is in control of his destiny here. Under braking into turn 11. He's got to make sure he doesn't lock it up. Got to make sure it's still clean. He hits the apex. He's completely clean on the brakes. And he's safe for another straight.
Technical issue for Molaire. Molaire is out of the race after a steering wheel problem. Coming up to the white flag this time around, Michael Kofray needs to find a way to gain 8 tenths and 1 1/3 laps. Needs a 10th back there.
He does gain 1/10 back, but he needs quite a few of those. Wearing a little bit deep through the first part of the stadium section, but that's just the way he's been taking this. He's been taking sort of an alternate line compared to Michael Kofray, and it's been working for him. 0.8 of a second on the exit of turn 17. Or rather, turn 15.
That was a little bit tough. Joey?
One of my monitors just had a little bit of an oopsie. It fell over, but we're good.
Well then, at least the monitor isn't cracked. 1 lap to go. Final lap, Waring leads by 7/10. Incident point infraction last time by Tavitas. Will these drivers make it to the end without issue? Will Waring be able to take away the win after dominating the second half of the race after the pit call?
Definitely don't want to have a monitor falling over during the race, but Michael Kofray in the ultimate focus here. I don't know what more he can really do here other than just give everything he's got. That's what he can do. Waring makes a mistake.
He hits the curbing. Waring holds onto it. Here comes Michael Kofray, gaining 2 tenths from the mistake. Can he take advantage? One major passing opportunity left on the track.
Waring cut the last S. I don't know if he's going to get a slowdown for that. It doesn't look like he will, but he did cut the track there. I don't know if he's going to get a slowdown down this back straight. He's deep into turn 11. Kofray's going to be in the draft here. Waring's not pulling over. I don't think he has a slowdown, but Kofray's in the draft. He's going to have a shot.
One more chance for Michael Kofray down the back straightaway. 3 tenths. Down to about 2. Michael Kofray. Will he chance it with the send? He tries. Waring takes a higher line. Michael Kofray to the inside. Can't make it work. Kofray shuffle back. Waring holds on to the arena section for the final time.
That was Kofray's best chance. It's not over. He might have a shot through the final corner. He might be able to send a late dive here, but that was Kofray's best chance. He wasn't quite able to be late enough on the brakes. He throws everything at it at turn 15 there. I think he might have used everything he had. He's going to have one more shot, like I said, through the final corner. But if Andrew Waring keeps it perfect here, he's home free.
Final 2 corners. Michael Kofray waits half a second back. One more corner for Waring to make it through. Waring exits the final corner to take the checker flag. He wins at Coda. Second, Michael Kofray. Sebastian Kofray right now in third, looking to close it out for a Kofray 2-3. Oh, wow, and am. It's Rivera who was able to break away with the traffic. How about a top 5 for the 222? Rivera through the final section to pick up the M-Class victory. Give it to Rookie Esports. Give it to Rivera. One race coming to the checker to win it.
And it's a double podium for Rookie Esports. John Quinn, he's close with Michael Myers. I don't think he's going to have a shot to steal second from him, but it's going to be a 1-3 finish for Rookie Esports at the line. First podium for John Quinn. First win for Alex Rivera. Great stuff for that team. That's going to be some big points in the team's championship because they did finish very, very well overall.
Whilst the drivers coming across the stripe, Ray Courtney was able to quietly get up to 14th. Several others like Lego battling with Swindells to the stripe. Dells trying to run on the right side, doesn't work though. Kevin San Diego, early time penalties cost him, finished 17th. Several more drivers like Victor Chamorro, who had to come in for a time penalty once the final finishers. Take a look at Robert Ridgway, quietly up 18 spots, tied for the biggest mover. Matthew Brewer, the other driver who gained 18 positions in tonight's action. 27 drivers able to take the checker flag. Blair was among the drivers still at the side of the road before the checkered. As we take a look at the final finishers, it's Brad Miller you're seeing. Quietly, decent run, class, but it's Victor Chamorro who will be the final driver to finish said classes today. And as drivers crash after the finish line, many drivers flirted with incident points today. Andrew Waring, however, was amongst those drivers, was able to keep it chill. 2 points the difference between him and a DQ for him and Michael Coffray. They finished 1-2 today. Sebastian Coffray in third. Ryan Miles, second biggest mover today, up 17. Alexander Rivera with the best finish so far for an AM driver in fifth. Then it's Jacob Majors, Justin Negretting, Max Preston after the time penalty in 8th. Michael Myers and Sean Quinn in top 10. 11th spot went to Brett Thurman with Ozzie Milwane and Tyler Pierre Richards. On the top half of the field, also with them, Ray Courtney, albeit let go. Richard Swindells did lose a spot towards the stripe, difference of 1/10 of a second. Kevin San Diego started the race with a penalty. He finished 17th. Nestor De La Fuente in 18th, Ridgway and Smith the top 20. 21st spot went the way of Brian Miller with Brewer and Chamorro the last finishers. George Gonzaga finished a lap down. Allaire finished with a technical issue with a broken wheel 3 laps down, with Sergio Maten in 26. Dubé, Juan Coffray, Carter Tavidas, the top 30. The drivers having other issues today. Joey Haynes crashed into the pit lane, with Hamilton and Caboeasy that same lap. Lamont having some issues. Roberto Coffray also with several problems. Jake Potts, several issues including incident infractions in 35th. Ritzma, Peterson, Koontz, LaRoche, Daly, top 40. Your final finishers, Ryan Kings, Raymond Day, Elon Pavan, and Cody Grams both did not start today's action at Coda. Look top to bottom at the field today. Andrew Waring picks up the fastest lap, picks up half the laps led, picks up the race victory here today at Coda. That coming after what was a topsy-turvy start to the season. Andrew Waring, the defending series champion, gets it done today. Andrew, after a no-point run last time, he bounced back with a big victory today. How are you feeling?
I definitely needed that one after the first race's disaster. So it was good to have the week off, and we really, tested a little bit more. And, we had a good set already from last year when we ran this race, and I was lucky enough to win that. And honestly, I pretty much won it the exact same way. I just sat behind Michael, waited for the pits, and then somehow, again, just come out a little bit ahead of him. And then, honestly, it was holding him off and trying not to make mistakes because I was making a lot out front.
Especially since the strategy was a big part of things. You went a lap further on the pit window. Talk us through that decision-making and how close it was.
I had about 0.3 of a lap left, it said. So it wasn't like an issue of wanting to go that extra lap. It's, trying to offset the pit from Michael. If Michael were not to pit, I probably wouldn't have pitted. But yeah, I got lucky, I think, when he pitted, when he did. So I was able to put the hammer down on the low fuel and overcut him, which was nice.
Well, that bounced back, but a new circuit on the horizon next week. Circuit de Nevers Manicours. Have you driven the track yet? If so, what's your thoughts on the circuit?
I haven't bought it yet, so I'll have to buy that. But I used to drive it a lot in like F1 Champions Edition 06 back when it was on the F1 calendar, and it's personally one of my favorites. So I'm looking forward to it. Nice fast track.
Well, congratulations on the victory. One more thing. I believe your mother may or may not be watching from the Bahamas. She says
Oh,
hello.
God. Yeah. Hello, Mother. Thank you for the support as always. She's the best. Always watches these races and supports me and the team. So enjoy the sun as it starts to snow where I am now.
Well, congratulations once again, Andrew.
Thanks, guys.
Andrew Waring, your All-Pro race winner tonight from COTA. One of the talks of the night, Ryan Miles, qualified in the 20s today. Up 17 spots, though, in the end. A top 5. Again, Atomic Monkey Butt. Putting their name into the headlines, especially the monkey butt part with Joey.
Of course, always in the headlines, Atomic Monkey Butt Racing. But Ryan Miles, before the race, I saw you say, "Oh, I feel so slow." And you just made up 17 spots over the course of the race. How in the world did you do that?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I don't know where that pace came from. To be fair, the gap between me and like P12 in qualifying was only 3/10, so I think it's just a super competitive field. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I knew I could probably like work my way up to P15, but I just kept on going and going, and soon enough, like I gained like 2 positions in the pit stop, and then yeah, it was crazy.
Absolute craziness. But how are you feeling coming forward in the rest of the season? Because you had a great race at Suzuka to kick things off with the new team, had a great race here at COTA. You've got to feel like the momentum is pretty good coming into 2023.
Yeah, definitely. I will be missing the next 2 races, unfortunately, but I'll be back for Spa and the rest of the races. I'm pretty excited for Spa. I'm hoping I'm faster there than I usually am, but yeah, I feel pretty good. I feel like I can get a decent in the standings.
Congrats on the run to P4 tonight. Send all of our wishes back to Atomic Racing, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time whenever you're back.
Yeah, see ya.
Ryan Miles, your P4 finisher tonight. No Alex Rivera, our AM winner. Hopefully we get to talk to him in the coming weeks. No John Quinn, the mighty Quinn. They'll be here eventually. They'll get this will get back to him. I'll force him to interview.
I don't know how he will be when it comes to the 4 scene there, but an eventful round today for both the series, especially after the holiday break. When it comes to the RO4s, next on their docket for reference is Circuit de Barcelona Catalonia for 19 laps of action. When it comes to the F3 competition, as mentioned, Nevers Magny-Cours on the docket. Final thoughts, Joey, as we get ready to head to the sunset.
It's going to be a very, very difficult sequence of races coming up. Barcelona, another F1 track, another grade 1 track, but it's a very, very tight track where it's difficult to pass. And then Magny-Cours as well. It's going to be a complete unknown for a lot of these drivers. Even if you have driven it on an F1 challenge like Andrew Waring has, it's a new track. It's a great equalizer. Anything could happen.
And on that note, it's time to say goodbye. For my co-announcer Joey Devin, for Hugo Louise, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Rest your evening. You've been watching the Precision Racing League, IRL4, as well as Formula 3 Series action powered by VCO. We'll see you next time. It was an eventful one. Have a good night once more.